Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love any makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I've seen a bunch of videos like this already, but they've mostly been done with mainstream brands and they're basically throwbacks to past makeup releases, kind of do you even remember these style? And I'm going to be doing that, but indie makeup only, and I'm gonna take it like way back when I first started using indie brands in like 2015. I thought it would be fun to take a nice stroll down memory lane. This is really nostalgic, especially if you've been buying indie makeup as long as I have, and for anyone who hasn't, it's still really interesting to see what used to be really popular back 4 or 5 years ago. So let's get right into it. I just took some screenshot of some indie makeup releases that I remember that were really popular with the indie beauty community, and that really excited me. This is in no particular order by no particular date either. I'm going to be talking about what year it was, but it's not going to be in chronological order. I almost forgot to move over again so I can put stuff up on the screen. So first up is October 2nd, 2019. We had the full reveal of the Max Up the Makeup Sweater Weather palette, and this very much reminded me of a Morphe palette, like a 30 pan Morphe palette that came out around the same time, and it was literally just like oranges and browns and warm tones with like one pop of green, and this one just reminded me smaller version of that. And I know people are very excited because I mean, just the packaging alone had fall leaves on it, and it was just perfect for fall, especially just the tones inside as well. I personally did not purchase this one, but I know there was a lot of hype around this one, so this one's a little bit of a throwback. Next up, we have August 26th of 2019 is the Celestial Store palette by DeDe Cosmetics, and I did buy this one, and I remember not liking it. I love the color story and the packaging. It's just really beautiful color story. I remember the shimmers were really not impressive, and they hard panned to the point where like I couldn't use them, and I remember the mattes not being like really pigmented, so I did end up decluttering this one. But this one is just so nostalgic because I very much remember this palette because it is just such a beautiful concept. Next up, we have March 1st, 2019, the Love Luxe Beauty Pretty Powerful palette. I had this palette. I did multiple looks with this palette. The shimmers were really nice. The mattes were okay. I remember the mattes are pretty much on the lighter side. There's those, oh my goodness, there's those two shades, Prestige and Force, that were like, they're like opalescent mixtures, and it was like a matte eyeshadow with like an opal or something like that, and it was just like really weird, and those were like super crumbly. They got everywhere. I wasn't a huge fan of those at all, but this was back when Love Luxe Beauty was kind of a little bit more popular. I really feel like they've kind of fallen off. I sometimes check their Instagram here and there, but I don't really see anyone talking about them, and I think it's partially because they have had some mixed reviews, as well as their photos online don't really match the actual shades in real life. So I don't know if you're ready for this next one, but it is the Certifeye Affinity 2 palette. Do you remember Affinity 1 as well? Both of them very legendary palettes. Oh my goodness. I mean, as far as color stories go, obviously a little bit more on the monochromatic side, but like really beautiful. There's some depth. I couldn't wait for this palette to launch. I know they were sneak peeking it for a bit, and then they finally launched it, and I was so excited. I don't remember how much each of these palettes were, but I believe it was around $40 something, and they were from the UK from what I can remember, so the shipping was a little bit expensive, but I love the color story more than I actually like the quality. Unfortunately, I had some issues with the mattes in both of the palettes. They were on the very thin side, which I have a lot of trouble with thinner formulas. They don't like to layer, they blend away, but this palette still holds like a very nostalgic place in my heart. Next up is another 2019 release, and also from Max Up the Makeup Cosmetics, and it's the Flower Child palette. I remember loving the packaging and the concept of this. I mean, really 10 out of 10 on the idea. I wasn't really a huge fan of the actual color story, and the shimmers don't really look like they're going to be anything special. Going into 2022, really, we have seen some stunning shimmers, so I love the concept, love this, love the packaging, and the type is really beautiful. This is such a fun palette, such a fun release. Next up, on to the Hybrid Shadow Collection, and these are the opalescent hybrids from Love Luxe Beauty. This was again in 2019, and I remember because I had originally gotten the opalescent ones, which were literally like pressed flakies, and honestly the moment you put your brush into them, they completely poofed out everywhere. They really should have just stayed a loose pigment. So then I think those were kind of getting mixed reviews, so that's why they did these, which is really strange because it's literally like a matte eyeshadow with these sparkles in it. So it's kind of like a mixture of like matte and shimmer. And these still were like not a hit. And these were the ones that were in that palette that we talked about previously. Next up, this is such a beautiful palette. I almost bought this so many times. This was also a 20 Dye Tita. That was the Glistered Cosmetics Disco Dynamite palette. I mean, look at this color story. So beautiful. And I have gotten their liners, their water activated liners, and I almost bought this palette so many times. I just really felt sucked into with the teal and the deep blue and the bright orangey red. Even though I didn't buy this one, it was such an exciting palette to look at. Next, we're taking it back to 2018, and we have quite a bit of a controversial brand, and this was MB Boutique, which I remember they originally were something else on Etsy, and they had to change their name because they were getting into trouble. This brand was beyond awful and sketchy. I honestly don't know if they're still selling on Etsy, and I don't even want to know because I would hope that by now they would have had to close. But multiple people, including me, had issues with moldy eyeshadows. And when I had informed the owner, she was like, oh, let me just send you a new one. I ended up using, like, I forget what it was. It was some sort of like vitamin E oil from Hobby Lobby instead of somewhere else. So she was saying she was using like a lower grade ingredient to press eyeshadows that were having the issue. And I was like, well, why would you even do that in the first place? Why would you even want to admit to that anyway? So that was the whole thing, and other people did confront them as well about their shadows molding, and they got ignored. We're also selling fuzzy eyeshadows at some point, as well as light activated eyeshadows. So basically, like if you went into the sunlight, it would turn a different color. And those pigments were not eye safe, and they actually got called out so much on that they ended up changing the name on Etsy to MB Boutique because it was something else. Unfortunately, this was one of those bad examples of indie brands that do press eyeshadows themselves and clearly don't really know what they're doing. So now to a really amazing indie brand, and that is Sydney Grace. And in 2018, they had the Autumn's Rain palette that launched, and this was their very first palette, I believe. I'm like 99% sure. And this was such a beautiful color story. I really enjoyed it. I didn't end up picking it up. It was pretty expensive. They did offer all the shades as singles, so you could have bought them as singles instead of in the palette, which made it less expensive. But I didn't end up getting this one, even though this one was really beautiful. And I just saw that Sydney Grace is going to be launching a new palette, and it looks really beautiful. So I'm really excited because they're one of the brands that have been really thriving. So then next up, we have the Enchanted Luster Luxury Chromo palette. Oh my goodness, I almost bought this so many times. Such a beautiful palette. I think they do still sell this one. I think there was a second version, and then there was like another one which was like dragon something, and it had like mostly blues. But this palette was so beautiful, especially at the time. Some of these shadows were really special. I think some of these shades would nowadays be a little bit more common, but this was such an amazing release. And this was November 27, 2018. So next up is a release that I actually don't remember, but this is from October 22nd, 2018, and it was from Alien Cosmetics, now known as Unearthly Cosmetics. And I guess they had released a palette called Unearthly back then, and when I saw that while I was looking for all these makeup releases, and I thought that was really cool since they are now called Unearthly Cosmetics. Okay, now we're taking it even further back, and this is the Hasina 2 palette from Blush Tribe. And this palette, oh my goodness, when I first saw this palette, I thought it was the most beautiful palette. The color story, the purples, the greens, the teals, the shimmers, oh my goodness. I did get this palette. I did not love the matte eyeshadows, unfortunately, but this was such an epic palette, and they had a bunch of other palettes that were really popular. Unfortunately, Blush Tribe had to close down. They actually ended up opening a different brand. I think it was like Mayali Beauty or something like that, and then that brand closed as well. But this is such a memorable indie makeup release. And then next onto the P. Louise palette. This was a very first P. Louise palette. I did get this one. The mattes performed absolutely beautifully. I think there was mostly mattes and then 2 shimmers, and I think those are supposed to be highlighters for the face, but probably to use with the mattes as well. But this was a really great palette. I really enjoyed it. I did not keep it for that long. I don't remember why. I think it was around the time that I started falling in love with more color. So now let's take it like way back, like way back. Who remembers Pretty Zombie Cosmetics? Because these liquid lipsticks were so legendary. They had some of the coolest colors and everybody raved about their formula. I remember being so excited when they were even sneak peeking, adding more shades to their whole entire line, and I had a bunch of these. I never finished them, but this is such a nostalgic product and brand. And yeah, this is one of the shades. This is like a close-up of the packaging. They had this like really simple packaging with just like a sticker on the top of the tube with like a zombie on it. I'm not sure if they still exist, but that was like during the liquid lipstick era, you know, when everyone was releasing liquid lipsticks. So next up we have a super nostalgic brand, and this was Star Crush Minerals, okay? If you remember Star Crush Minerals, you are truly the OG of indie makeup, I think, because these were like $2. You got really small amount of product, but it didn't matter because it was basically pure makeup pigment or just pure pigment, and these were super pigmented. I must have bought about 20 of these, and I just thought I was the coolest, and I was like, I have all the colors of the rainbow that I could ever want, and these were so affordable. They also had like some sort of mixing liquid medium. They also had glitters that they sold in the same little jars like that. I don't think they had any shimmers. I don't believe so, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if they exist either. I should have looked it up before the video, but I know that they got in quite a bit of hot water at some point, so I think they kind of just like trailed off and weren't as popular. But also they never launched anything new, and they just had the loose pigments, and I think a lot of people weren't really into loose pigments, but oh my goodness. This is like such a throwback. I really wish I had kept like a couple of them just for nostalgic reasons, just to look at them. Next up is a controversial product, and these were the super foils from Lime Crime, which were basically like split pans of beautiful metallic shadows. I had pretty much all of these. I love these. I feel like these are the ancestors of the current like all shimmer palette kind of situation, the same kind of super smooth and metallic and almost wet feeling formula. I love these, but the thing that happened with these is they rusted so bad. I don't remember how long it took, but it must have been around like 6 months, and people were saying it was mold, but they had it tested and it wasn't mold, it was just rust. Well, just rust. I mean, it shouldn't have happened, but I think it was actually that they were using aluminum pans, and I think there was something in the formula that just like did not work together. But if they had been in like a different kind of pan, it would have been fine, or if that just one ingredient had not been in there. I remember when I first saw someone showed that theirs was rusty, I went and I scraped mine out, and they were really rusty on the bottom, and I went on their chat on their website. I sent the pictures and they did end up refunding me. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I absolutely love these, I had so much fun with these, and these were the Diamond Crushers. These were just such epic toppers, and these were for the lip. I'm pretty sure these were for the lips, and then they eventually ended up releasing something for the eyes, but these were for the lips, and this was back when like metallic liquid lipsticks and just metallic lips was a thing. And I absolutely love this product. Actually, it smelled so good. It smelled like a cherry, like really fake cherry, but it smelled really delicious. And I had all of them. I mean, I collected them. I used them a lot. So next up we have a brand, and I think it wasn't really that well known. This was Syzygy Cosmetics. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. And they had this all shimmer palette. Okay, 6-pan palette full of duochromes. I was so excited. They did send me this, and they also sent me their lipstick, which was like a metallic, basically like green brown pigment. It was so beautiful. But this is basically like the first like all shimmer palette, I would say, that has some kind of duochromes in it. It was so special. This was sold on Amazon, I believe. I really wonder what happened to the brand. And this was from 2017, okay? So we're starting to take it way back. Okay, next into 2019, but I believe they were around probably since like 2018, maybe 2017. And that was Tattoo Junkie Cosmetics. These were liquid lipsticks that had a little bit of tiny amount of pigment in like a little jar thing that you would layer over the liquid lipstick, and it was supposed to be like the coolest thing ever. It made your lips even like 3 times drier than it already had been because the liquid lipstick was so drying. But like on top of that, putting the shimmer, but it looked so cool, so nobody cared because everyone was like, this looks really fun. So these were so bad and purely just basically made because it was trendy, and the packaging was awful. I mean, I don't remember how much they were. I don't think you're ready for this next one, because what the heck was this era of indie makeup? And that was 2015, okay? And that was, many brands came out with these goopy lip paints, lip glosses. One of them specifically that was really, really well known. I don't know if they were like one of the first ones, maybe, was House of Beauty, and they had the lip hybrids. There was just any shade you could ever possibly think of. They had some non-metallic ones and some like duochrome ones. They were really, really beautiful. Of course, I got sucked into it. I bought so many, and then I know Clarity Cosmetics had them as well. And then I know there was this other brand that I can't remember. They ended up renaming because they got into some hot water, so they renamed thinking it would like change. But basically, it was just like a huge fight between like all these brands that had these super goopy, sticky lip gloss things in a jar. Like, why in a jar? Jars are literally the worst. Like, when it comes to any makeup product, I hate jars. Unless it's like loose pigment, then it's fine. But like lip gloss and just like, oh my gosh, these are really something else. But I just remember thinking I was so cool using these all over my lips. So next up is from 2018, and this is the Lucid Dream Loose Pigment Palette from Her Mannerisms. I bought this whole thing. Each of these jars had 8 grams of pigment. I'm pretty sure. They were huge. And I don't think I knew that when I ordered it. And so I got stuck with these huge jars of this pigment. The pigments were really beautiful. However, it was just way too much. These have been long decluttered from my collection. And they came in this like really big box, which each of them had like a slot for the jar for them. And it was just really big and heavy. And it looked like it was made out of particle board that was spray painted silver. I'm sorry. But that's just like what I remember of it. But anyways, who remembers these? And then next up we have, this one was such a good launch. I really wish they would bring these back. And these are the Lip Switch lip glosses from Sigma Beauty. Do you remember these? Do you remember the absolutely stunning artwork people would create with these on their lips? I honestly don't even know how they could capture the effect of these. I actually still have a couple of them. They're definitely not good. I mean, this was what? This was at least 2017, I think. I really want these to come back. I feel like now with TikTok, these could go like so viral on TikTok if these came back. And I remember when I was using them, they had like a brush. You could really only see the effect as you're like swiping them on, but like once they were on, you couldn't really see it. They were so translucent, and the way that the pigment was, it was really hard to see the oil slick effect on the lips. So that was really unfortunate for that, but oh, these were so cool. So on that note, I'm gonna end on the Obsessive Compulsive Cosmetics lip tars. Lip tar. Please tell me how that sounds appealing in any way, shape, or form. These tubes were absolutely just atrocious. They had some really beautiful shades. I forget. I think it was like Black Dahlia or something was the epic one that like everybody wanted. I'm pretty sure it was out of stock at some point. But again, these were really not a good formula. I think these were better than the like lip hybrid goopy jar things. But these were, I just remember these being super oily to the point where like the oil would separate in the tubes. And when you put them on, they just kind of like slip and slided everywhere. And that in return made the pigment really patchy on the lids. It was super uneven. But did I have like 10 of these? Yes, I did. And so those are all the throwback indie makeup releases from 2019, 2018, 2017, all the way through 2015. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a part 2 of this video. And if you have any suggestions, do you remember any indie makeup launches that I didn't cover that you remember? Because this was so much fun to film and think about like all the other indie makeup that I thought was super cool back then, that looking back, you're just like, wow, makeup has come a long way, and not just mainstream makeup, but indie makeup as well. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I will love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup content uploading my channel and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.